in my clock, I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols. Reaming my body, clothing no issue. Bitch, you look sick, you need a tissue. You drop a body, I just might bless you. I'm metrosexual.
Yo, what is going on, everyone? It's Wraith here, back with another video. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably wondering, oh my god, where have you been? It's been like 4 or 5 days or something like that. And honestly, this is probably the longest break I think I've ever had on YouTube. And basically the reason for that is I was pretty sick, like not like dying sick, but basically I just had like a really bad throat problem. Like I couldn't breathe properly, like I just had like my throat was swollen, everything like that. Barely could talk, so basically I obviously couldn't really make videos, which is kind of unfortunate because I obviously do really enjoy making videos for you guys and helping you guys out as much as possible. But yeah, I apologize for the break, but we are back and we will have a good upload schedule from now on. And yeah, but basically in today's video I'm going to be kind of doing an updated version on how to switch from keyboard and mouse to controller to keyboard and mouse, because a lot of you guys obviously are wondering this all the time, and I know so many people get PCs, especially for Christmas or something like that, and they just want to try keyboard and mouse. So I'm going to basically give you guys the best tips that I possibly can give in this video, and hopefully it'll help you guys out. So if you're looking forward to this, make sure you slap a like button on it, comment what you want to see for a future video, hit that subscribe button, and let's get right into today's video. And I apologize if my voice sounds raspy. Again, it's just because I'm sick. So basically the first thing you need to do when switching over to keyboard and mouse, and this is pretty self-explanatory, and I'm not going to go too in depth in it because I've talked about this in my last video, and I made quite a bit of videos about finding keybinds and what kind of sensitivity and stuff works for you. But basically the most important thing is finding out what sensitivity and what keybinds work for you. Now a lot of you guys might be wondering, okay, well, like, how do I figure out what works for me, what doesn't work for me, blah 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 blah, right? So basically what I recommend doing is going over a couple pros, settings, and figuring out what kind of looks good and what you feel comfortable with. Now I know I talked about basically don't just copy a pro, and I still stand by that. What I recommend doing is finding like 2 or 3 pros that look like they have decent keybinds. For example, someone who has all binds close to the WASD tab, not someone like Mr. Savage who uses like the F1, F2, like that kind of stuff, because that's pretty difficult to do, and I doubt you guys will be able to do that easily. So I recommend basically, like I said, just trying a couple different ones. Like try, for example, mongrels, a little bit of tifus. What I use is basically kind of a mix of tifus and a mix of mongrels, and it honestly works pretty good for me. And then I obviously added a little bit of my own kind of twist onto it. I switched what I didn't like and added my own kind of stuff that I did like. Just for example, like if I didn't like his wall bind, I just switched it to something else that I do like. So again, it's all just finding something that's comfortable for you. And again, you don't want to just, like I said, just because it's a pro using it doesn't mean it's good. And for some people, you might even just use keybinds that no other pro uses, which is fine. Basically, when you're finding keybinds and sensitivity, you just want to do what works for you. If something feels uncomfortable or it doesn't feel like you can use these or practice with these, then don't use it. Just switch it all up. The nice thing about when you first switch on to keyboard and mouse is you can try different things. So figure out what works for you, but once you figure it out and once you try different keybinds and sensitivity and once you like it, stick with it. The biggest thing that people do is once they find the right sensitivity and keybinds is they keep switching it up. They keep changing 1 or 2 build binds here, the sensitivity, which is not a good thing. Once you find what works for you, keep with it, stick with it, because if you're not, trust me, it's going to be a way longer and more what's the word? It's not going to be as fun basically, because you're going to have to be relearning everything that you do over and over again until you get used to them, right? So once you figure out one set of binds and one sensitivity, stick with it for as long as possible. Trust me, it will be worth it, because if you keep switching it, trust me, it's going to take way longer for you to get better. So now that you have the basic out of the way, once you figured out basically your keybinds and your settings and everything like that, that's the easy part. Once you figure it out, then you're golden, right? But basically now, this comes in where you put in the time to actually improve, which obviously for a lot of people is pretty difficult. But if you don't have a lot of time, I recommend you peep the video that I made, how to improve in Fortnite in only 1 hour a day. That's a really good video, and I suggest doing that. But basically, what I suggest you doing, hopefully you came from controller and you already know kind of the basics of the game. But what I think you need to start doing is basically grinding mechanics. Now, kind of the way that I go through mechanics is basically the #1 most important mechanic in my opinion is aim, Number 2 is building, and number 3 is editing. And honestly, I kind of think editing can sometimes be even more important than building. If you're playing in the comp scene, building is not as important because you very rarely get in a build fight. But editing, you obviously have to edit all the time. But again, you still can use building in comp, so I still recommend you learn building. But anyway, basically it's arguable which one's more important, right? But basically, what you can do to improve is, one, for aiming, I suggest you spend a lot of time aiming. Aiming is going to be the hardest for you 100% to get used to, just because if you haven't played keyboard and mouse games before, your aiming's not going to be very good. That was the hardest thing for me, was to get good at aiming, because honestly, even now, after 6-7 months on keyboard and mouse, my aiming's above average, but it's still not where it needs to be at a pro level. So trust me, it is very frustrating. You're gonna need to put a lot of time, and if you need to know how to improve aiming, I've made tons of videos about it. But basically, the best ways are, one, Kovacs. I stand by Kovacs, and I think it's the best way to personally improve aim and mouse control. And if you're don't want to spend money, or you're not a fan of Kovac, then you can just do Fortnite creative maps. Basically just work just as good, and you can look some up. I've made videos on them before. Whatever kind of works for you, I've made tons of videos. Just figure out what works for you and stick with it and keep practicing it. Now for building, there's a couple things you can do. Again, I've made videos on all of these before, but basically the number one thing you can do is just practice free building or 1v1ing. And that's just a really good way to get down the basic builds. Once you get down the basic builds, then I'd say start focusing more on a little bit of 1v1s and stuff like that. Just so free build until you get the basic builds, and once you get the basic builds, then yeah, you can just start kind of focusing on the 1v1 part area. Then for editing, honestly, again, you can just free edit, where basically what you do is just chill in your edit, or chill when you're free building, and basically just practice your editing as you're free building. So for example, if you build a ramp and then you do cone floor, basically just practice editing through the cone floor, stuff like that. Just very simple things, just will help you in the long run if you practice editing, free editing. Or again, you can just do editing courses like a lot of people do. I kind of do a mix of both, but whatever kind of works for you basically will work. So once you start to feel more mechanically gifted, and well, not gifted, but more mechanically kind of sound, and you feel more confidence in a basically editing, building, and aiming scenario, like you feel like you can hit your shots a little bit, you can edit some builds and build kind of freely. Basically what you want to do after that is start playing as much as possible and grinding. So what I mean about that is basically, number one is you want to get in as many fights as physically possible, basically to make it an easy assumption. So how you can do that is a couple ways. One, you can just play solos as much as possible and grind them out. So basically what I mean about that is literally just play solos, and every single time you see someone, just W key them as quick as possible. Again, even if you lose, it doesn't really matter because you're just trying to improve. Same thing with arena, you can just W key as much as possible. Or kind of another couple ways that I honestly really like is, one, you can box fight or 1v1 your buddy or people on Discord. That's a really good way just to get kind of used to it. Another way is basically you can do the new Storm Wars that they added in what's like the kind of the selection basically like of game modes. They added the Storm Wars in, and they said they're going to take it out probably for season 11, but even if they take it out, then you can just join Zone Wars through streams or through Discords, but hopefully they don't take it out because it's a really good way to improve. Or another way is basically just like I said, play the game as much as possible, even if it's squads, even if it's duos, just try and get into fights as much as possible so you feel more confident. And yeah, like I said, it is kind of a pain because basically you're probably not going to feel very good. You're probably going to like feel like, oh my god, like I can barely even win a fight, but trust me, it will get easier. You just got to keep fighting, keep pushing through, and eventually you will start to see a decent amount of improvement. Now, this is where the big thing comes in. Once you guys start fighting more and once you start feeling more confident, just because you can start winning fights doesn't mean that you need to stop practicing your mechanics. So just because you can start winning fights, don't just be like, oh, okay, well, like now I can just screw around, like just play solos, whatever, right? No, just because you got good mechanics, make sure you still focus on improving them. Make sure you're still grinding your aim courses, your Kovacs, make sure you're doing your editing courses, your box fighting, all that type of stuff. Because if you stop practicing your mechanics because you're just playing solos or whatever the case is, well then how are they supposed to improve at an exceptional rate, right? So yeah, obviously like you can just play whatever solos, and they're going to improve, but not as fast as specifically with them. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you slap a like button on it, comment what you want to see for a future video, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Peace.